Welcome to BD4, an RJ Carbone podcast. BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. BD4 is a 5-star show on Apple Podcasts, also available in video format on YouTube and Spotify. So thanks for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Champion of the world, turning, looking, see ya!
Anthony for three, bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied! Time!
Penetrates, creates, and showing some dexterity as well with the left hand.
Yankees win!
One of the reasons I record these episodes the night after a game and not the night of the game, besides the fact that I'm old, is for reasons like how I was feeling last night. I was, right after the game, I was super pissed, super frustrated, annoyed, irrational. So the more you wait, I feel like, the less heightened your emotions are going to be. And that goes for both the highs and lows, right? Sometimes we get too excited after a win, and then there are nights like last night where we get too down after a loss. So I'm kind of really glad that I didn't decide to press record last night after the Knicks sleptwalked through a 112-105 home loss against the tanking Charlotte Hornets. But that doesn't mean the Knicks aren't going to get criticized in this one, because I will call out ugly when I see ugly, and last night was pretty ugly. And if you think for a second that I'm going to come in here and use the fatigue excuse that I already see people using, you might not enjoy this episode. We're all tired. The Knicks are an NBA team. They play in the NBA. They're an NBA team who rely on 9 players to collectively play well to win. They know how it works. These are men. They're going to be tired often. If you want to be a great team, you got to learn how to play through fatigue. You don't think teams who grind for the NBA Finals are tired? They're going to have overtime games. They're going to have barn burners. That's how their season has gone and will continue to go going forward. They're going to have to grind. And it's probably how tomorrow night in Sacramento is going to go. So I'm not going to, I'm not about to use that garbage load management narrative or, tired excuse like these cupcake freaks are right now on Twitter. But, and I thought Josh Hart actually made the perfect comment after last night's loss in the presser. I think it was to the media, whether it was in the presser or in the locker room. And whether you think it was media food or not, I still found it to be very true. He was saying, you got people getting up at 6 a.m. Let me say that again. You got people getting up at 6 a.m. Doing 12-hour shifts. Those people are tired. For us, we're playing a game. We got to keep that in perspective. That's what he said. And I thought that was perfectly put. The Knicks just didn't come ready last night. They played with no urgency, not consistently enough. They didn't have any down the stretch. They saw Charlotte. Man, I can't speak tonight. They saw Charlotte on the schedule. They got lazy, and not just physically but mentally. They thought it'd be a walkthrough, an easy game where you could just coast through it. I even thought Jalen Brunson probably should have played at least 18 or 20 minutes off the bench last night. That would have been good. That could have been your 7-point difference right there. But nonetheless, no excuse. It was a very bad loss, and suddenly things aren't as chipper and bright and optimistic because the irrelevant Nets are streaking, and they're just one game behind the Knicks now. The Cleveland Cavaliers just beat Boston in overtime the other night. So as I record, they're at least 2 games up on the Knicks. And as I'm recording, it's late in the day, March 8th, Wednesday. And the Knicks have a very tough West Coast trip coming up, which they don't usually do well on. They're a different team this year, but coming off a loss, and now you have to face Sacramento and the Clippers in the first 2 games of this West Coast trip coming up. Late night games here on the East Coast, which we love so much. So things could get ugly if they don't do what these great legitimate teams do, which we've been calling them, which is respond to a bad loss with a win. They cannot do what they've done a few times before this year. Follow up a winning streak with a long losing streak. Because that will be the death of them. That will, because they don't have too many games remaining to afford another long losing streak, given where they are in the standings and how tight the Eastern Conference is, from 4 to 7. So I was shocked by how disinterested they looked too. Like, even when Charlotte made their runs, I kept texting my Knicks buddy. I was like, yeah, whatever, they're going to be fine. Charlotte's horrendous. They can still pull it out, good game or not from them. They're still going to win this because Charlotte is horrendous, and the Knicks are that much better. But no. The Knicks, they got lazy and they failed. So let's recap it briefly when we return from break. Stay with us. Be right back. Hey guys, so if you are a listener of the podcast often and you want to know where to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook at BD4. You can find me on Twitter at BD4Pod. And you can also find me on Instagram at Rob J. Carbone. And so, yeah, this is going to be another brief episode because I just don't have enough energy to talk about a loss that really pissed me off. Sometimes I can go rant on different things I need to fix, but we'll save that for if it becomes a streak. But the first quarter, you could see it right away. Again, the Knicks were just a step slow out there. The defense looked disinterested. The Knicks were actually able to generate some good open looks offensively early on, but none of their shots would fall. They took 23 shots in the first quarter, and 13 of them were from three-point distance, despite shooting 3 of 13. 13%. There was no attack on the hoop. A couple dump-offs to Mitchell Robinson, but nobody bothered to use their energy to attack and dribble penetration. And to me, that says a lot about, your work ethic. So by the end of the first quarter, it was only 21-21. Second quarter arrives. The Knicks finally show some life. They actually got, they got on this scorching hot run and they scored 45 points on 16 of 20. They were protecting the basketball. They were making an effort to attack the basket a lot more. You saw RJ Barrett get it going throughout the second quarter. He was attacking, some nice facilitating on the break with Josh Hart, making good reads on the defense. Later in the half, the Knicks get quickly going. Grimes is even chipping in at the end of the half with a strong couple of baskets. He has that impressive coast-to-coast reverse finish in the final seconds there. And the Knicks go up 16 points at halftime. The third quarter comes, and the Knicks, again, they're still pretty hot to start out. They're getting into the paint quickly in RJ, using that floater game. Randall's in post-up, nailing a tough jumper over Gordon Hayward. You saw another Barrett Robinson 3-5 pick-and-roll play. But the Knicks just, again, the story of the night, they couldn't sustain. Sorry, we may have gotten cut off there. Yeah, we got cut off for a second. But as I was saying, where were we? The Knicks just couldn't sustain that energy. And they got back to playing slow not long after that hot first couple minutes in the third quarter. So Charlotte suddenly erases that 16 point deficit, and they take a brief lead in the final minutes of the third off some free throws by Richards. But it was mainly Terry Rozier in the period who really did damage to the Knicks. Damn, he was just killing them. 5 out of 8 in the period. On the night, Rozier, Hayward, and Kelly Oubre really, really, really gave the Knicks trouble. They combined for 75 points between just the three of them. And the Knicks, they finished the third quarter up by a point only after a basket from Obi, who was otherwise quiet. Fourth quarter comes, and Then the dry spell just really continued for the Knicks here. They allowed the Hornets to carry that momentum. The Knicks bench unit does get it going early on in the period to push the Knicks lead to 8, but that was really the peak. That was the peak. R.J. Barrett cooled off tremendously. Oubre and Hayward start torching the Knicks defense again. And suddenly, with 2 minutes to go, the Knicks are down 2 points. You did have the clutch basket from Julius, playing some bully ball with a tough finish. He ties the game, but that become their only basket, the Knicks, in the final 4.5 minutes of the game. The Knicks were just awful to close out the game on both sides. To follow up that Randall basket, you had Gordon Hayward, who just turned back the clock last night because of course he did. He drills a turnaround jumper over Josh Hart in the mid-post. Then Josh Hart gets swatted trying to finish at the basket. And then to follow that, it was Kelly Oubre once again with a basket. He drills a tough 3-point jumper in the corner over a closing out quickly who contested it well. But that was your dagger right there. That was your nail in the coffin. And the Knicks would lose 112-105 at the Garden to a terrible, tanking, horrendous 20-something win Hornets team. So the 9-game streak is snapped right there on the spot. Again, the defense, the effort was very, very, very poor to me. That was what I focused on in this game. Without getting to the numbers because we don't need them tonight. All the Knicks, all night, most of the Knicks were just lacking an edge. They weren't closing out on the perimeter. They also weren't doing a good job boxing out on the inside, letting up a lot of offensive rebounds once again. Even Mitchell Robinson at times. Randall, I thought he was horrendous. Very lazy, everywhere on the floor at all times. He gave you nothing last night. He may as well have sat his first game of the year. I mean, it was one of those games that remind me why I've never been the biggest fan of him. I hate his body language in some of these losses from time to time. It really bothers me, but you got to put that aside. It's one game, and he's played every game, big minutes. I get it. I thought on the perimeter, the Knicks defense wasn't good either. Quickly looked a bit slow out there, getting beat a few times to the cup. He also didn't really do great to close out on Terry Rozier a few times. Quentin Grimes struggled with Charlotte's size on the wing. The transition defense wasn't good, and vice versa. The Knicks didn't really run great transition offense. In the half court, they only had 18 assists, and the fact that, once again, they attempted 43 point attempts in 48 minutes last night, despite shooting it poorly, again, says all you need to know about their refusal to work extra hard and generate higher quality looks. Some bright spots, I guess. We'll do our 2 game balls right now. R.J. Barrett is the one who gets it amongst the starters. Bing, bang. R.J. scored 27 points last night, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. He shot 10 of 24 from the floor, 1 of 7 from 3. I thought he got to the rim well. He ran the transition game, used his size and strength to finish and play through contact. Thought there were a few bad no calls last night on RJ. He was doing a nice job finding his bigs often, especially in the first half. But even his night wasn't great. He didn't really look for anybody on the perimeter. I also thought he was just atrocious in the fourth quarter there, going 1 for 9. I think the defense at that point in the game, Charlotte's defense recognized that RJ's 3-point shot wasn't there, shocker. So they started to play off him and take away the drive because he was 8 of 10 from inside the 3 in the first 3 quarters of the game. But again, he was the best among the starters. I don't know how much that says. Josh Hart will get the second game ball. Thought Josh Hart, 10 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, 3 of 5 shooting, hit his only 3-point attempt. I thought he was fine. He had the usual transition game going, rebounding out there. defense leading to offense. He had a nice coast-to-coast right-hand finish. Once again, that seems to be his move, and they can't stop it, so it's going to keep doing it. A lot of hustle from Hart, at least. In a game where not everybody else is really bringing hustle, he brought it. Not much from him in half-court offense. A lot of passing. But all in all, I did think he took advantage of the 33 minutes that he got. So it was a nice night from him. But the rest of the second unit, I actually thought that the second unit was okay. Like, Deuce McBride also looked fine out there. 7 points, 3 of 5 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3, 2 steals, 2 blocks, +8, and that was all in 13 minutes. He gave the Knicks bench a good boost. I think it was early in the second quarter. Nice little pick and roll action with Hartenstein to set himself up with a mid-range jumper. Gave you a little bit more in the fourth quarter. Did a nice job picking off passes and playing that great point of attack defense. We saw him block a few bigger players. So I thought Deuce McBride played well. Not much from Obi and Hartenstein, but they weren't terrible either. I thought Thibs should have used the second unit a little more last night. Deuce especially, I think, should have saw some more minutes because, given his production last night and the first unit's lack of production, Quickly's inconsistency last night, plus you were playing without Brunson, would have been beneficial to use that extra guard a little more out there. It was a game the Knicks lost. They blew a 16-point halftime lead to a team that has a roster significantly worse than them. So that right there, that's got to fall on coaching a little bit too. But again, I think this is going to be it. I don't want to harp on this game too much. It's one game, but the Knicks have a tough task ahead of them. They have to respond, because if they don't respond with the big win, it could get ugly. Things change very quickly in this league. So if the Knicks don't respond to the Kings and they let this spiral out of control, we're talking about some things we don't want to discuss again. So let's hope it doesn't get there. But let's wrap this up. Let's get to our final break, get back, and we'll wrap it up with our trivia. Stay with us. Be right back. We also have a website now for BD4. If you go to BD4blog.com, you can find the blog, the podcast links, and also where to find me on social media. Just go to BD4blog.com. All right. Welcome back to the show. Episode 490 of the podcast. Let's get to our trivia. Wrap this thing up. All right, so for this episode 490, we have a true or false for you. True or false? With last night's loss, the Knicks now have a 4-game home losing streak against the Charlotte Hornets. With last night's loss, the Knicks now have a 4-game losing streak against the Charlotte Hornets. Is that true or false? Let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. And that's it. All right? That's it. Sometimes during losses, we don't like to go too long because we're either fed up with it and don't really feel like picking it apart. That's actually the only thing. So sometimes we like to dive into it and again, get into specific talking points, but that's, I'm not going to do that again after one loss. It feels a little, knee-jerk reaction type of thing to do. So that's it. 490's in the books. I'll see you in the next one. And go check out 489. Good episode. Talk some MMA. Had a few guests on. So, later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.